Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 21 Hats podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Feldman. This week, Karen Clark-Cole, Jay Goltz, and Sarah Segal discuss whether their businesses are meeting expectations and how that's affecting their plans for next year. They also talk about how to handle an employee who doesn't deliver, whether now is a good time to hire, and, in answer to a listener question, how to make the transition from using contractors to hiring employees. And Karen explains why employee utilization, that is, what percentage of her people are actually billing clients, is the most important metric she tracks and one she tracks on an hourly basis. Plus, notebooks or Notion, all three owners tell us how they try to stay organized. Even in good times, owning and running a business can be a lonely pursuit. Our hope is that these weekly conversations will let owners know they are not alone in facing challenges. Same thing with our daily newsletter, the 21 Hats Morning Report, which Inc. magazine recently named the best newsletter for business owners and which you can subscribe to at 21hats.com, where you can also find transcripts of our podcast episodes and lots of other articles and interviews. Joining me this week on the podcast are regulars Karen Clark-Cole, who is CEO of Blink, a Seattle-based user experience research and design firm. Jay Goltz, whose companies in Chicago include a picture frame business, artist frame service, and a home furnishing store, Jason Home. And Sarah Segal, who is founder and CEO of Segal Communications, a public relations firm based in San Francisco. And please take a listen to my quick chat with Rob Levin, co-founder of our sponsor, Work Better Now. The episode is titled, Are You Hitting Your Numbers? Welcome, Karen, Sarah, and Jay. Great to have you all here. I want to talk about how you guys organize your lives. How do you survive keeping track of all the things that you need to keep track of, getting done all the things you need to get done? Sarah, let me start with you. What keeps you on track?
That's a really good question. And I have to say, I haven't found that magic method to keep me on track. My default is a notebook, and this is my old partner used to do that. And she had this just regular notebook that you would use in college, and she'd write everything down, and then she'd put a big strike through every time she accomplished something, and then would just keep adding to it. And so I kind of picked up that habit, but then I also put my call notes in that. And then I have this idea that I'm going to get really organized, and I research new apps to do it. I have tried every app on the planet to get organized. But again, I have not found that magic cure to my disease.
Why don't they help you? What doesn't work for you?
I don't know. I just think I have this optimism that someday I'm going to have like a lot of time to sit down and collect all those Post-it notes and put them in one place and be organized and then be diligent about it. But my existence doesn't seem to provide me that opportunity, but also I don't know that my brain works in that linear fashion well enough to leverage those tools.
But you're keeping a to-do list on paper. Why can't you keep it in an app or a Google Doc? Or
ask the follow-up question, Lauren. How many notebooks do I have?
How many notebooks do you have, Sarah?
Exactly.
I have 1, 2, 3, 4 on my desk right now in front of me.
Do you feel organized?
No. I have this need and this desire. Like literally my porn is Instagram posts of people getting organized. Like to me, there's nothing better than a beautifully organized closet or a beautifully organized to-do list. I just don't know that I am personally capable of doing that by myself. And I am open to solutions for that.
Jay, what app do you use?
It's called a piece of paper.
Lauren.
Yeah, piece of paper. And as I'm listening to this, I'm thinking to myself, I think what I've done is I've made sure I hired competent people, kept them around, and I've given away most of the day-to-day stuff to them.
You don't have a to-do list.
I have a to-do list, but it's very short. There's just not a lot of activity. Like if I don't show up today, nobody's looking for me. Nobody's calling me. Nobody's sending me texts. No one's leaving.
We would have been looking for you. How do you make sure you get to your appointments?
I have a day timer. It's this thing.
Oh, what?
Yeah, I think there's 4 of us left. There was actually a year where they didn't send them out on time. I thought, I think that they're going to go broke. And they got bought by somebody.
Do you special order them?
Yes, absolutely. I special order them once a year. They got bought by a big company now. and I appreciate they're still making them, and they're easy, and it's in my pocket, and I've got this thing called a pen that's hooked in there, and I take it and I write down a little note, and it works just fine. So I have absolutely no desire to go looking for an app or anything. I frankly don't have that many. Like if you open up next week's appointment, I got like 2 things written down. I just don't have that much going on. I've come to the conclusion that this won't be a surprise to most people. I'm not normal. I recognize that. I am probably ADD. I think I'm clearly ADD. And I don't think I could have gotten to where I'm at if I didn't. There's a great book called The Hypomanic Edge. It talks about hypomania, where you think you can do anything and you're always up. I'm not really down. And I recognize that I do think differently, and I just gave up on trying to be the most organized. Yeah, I'm just not. But it works, and I'm not torturing myself over it, which is a key part to this. My new phrase is, let me not sleep on that, because that's the only thing I can't control. Like, I do get up in the middle of the night occasionally thinking about something, but other than that, I'm pretty...
Do you schedule that in your day timer?
No, and I really, it's frustrating sometimes because stuff does wake me up that I'm thinking about. But I will tell you, at 6 a.m. when I'm half asleep, I actually come up with some great solutions occasionally. So
I have that problem too. Like I wake up and you're just sitting there thinking and stewing in your own thoughts.
Yeah, it's helpful sometimes. I wouldn't mind just getting a whole night's sleep without.
Do you write down the things that you think about? Like, do you
No.
Do you know that you're going to remember them? Because I worry that I won't remember them.
Once in a while, I think of something. I don't need to write that down. And then, of course, 3 hours later, I can't remember what it was. So I do write it down occasionally. But I'm organized enough on my desk every day. There's a pad of paper, and I have a list of stuff to do, and I'm working down the list. I have zero desire to go get an app. I can tell you that.
We sense that. Karen, how about you? Do you feel organized?
It kind of depends. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Different than Jay, I don't have ADD, I have OCD. So my closet is incredible. Like, the whole company is built on organization though. So like my sock drawers are organized, my forks are organized, everything's really organized. And if it's not, then it's problematic for me. It makes me crazy, but that's like the physical space. But I tell you, over the years, like it's like the flavor of the week of what I do to organize my work. I love paper because it's fast, it's easy. And I also, I have an art background, so I like to use different color felt pens. And the pen I use is very important for the notes I'm taking. And if it's this kind of note, I use it this color. If it's that kind of note, I use that color. I have very specific paper that I've tried over the years, a million different kinds of paper. But it has to be beautiful because of the sort of art side of me. And, it's 5x7, it's got dots on it, and the pages pull out. And so they're not meant to stay in there, which is really important because once I'm done with that note, it goes bye-bye and I don't want to wreck the book. So the book stays beautiful, pages get ripped out. And as it goes down to the bottom, I have 10 others in different colors that I choose and I use next. Now what I do, and this is a new system that I'm using, which is working so far, is I have a big iPad and I use OneNote and with a pen, and I can draw digitally in my iPad and take notes that way. Then I can carry it around with me, because what I found is I'm walking around with these stacks of papers of all my little notes, and each little note is some sort of action item. So there's always something new initiative that I'm working on. And I've got notes that came out of this last meeting that now I got to turn that into action. And so there's all kinds of stuff, and I got to get this person going, that person going, and make it all happen. And so I'm walking around these little bits of paper, and I've got them all over my desk, which is great until I have to move and go somewhere else and work. And it was becoming really problematic because sometimes I'm at home, sometimes I'm in the office, sometimes I'm, in my car, all over the place. And so this iPad with the notes on it was super helpful.
I'm exhausted just listening to this. I think I need to take a break
I
now.
know. My life is exhausting, Jay. There's never a dull moment. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
And the whole thing translates to my personal life. Like I have a separate piece of paper with a different color pen for like call the vet, call the furnace guy, like all that kind of stuff.
This is a serious question. Jay and Karen, are you good at taking notes? Because
Yes.
I learned early on that I'm an auditory learner. And so if I take notes, I'm not hearing what the people are saying.
Oh, I'm the opposite, actually. I have to have a pen in my hand or I kind of can't hear you. It's interesting that you say that because I think everyone is very different. If I were to look at those notes typed out, I don't remember the conversation hardly at all. Like I have to really think about it. And so that's why putting it in to this app where I can draw, because with the pen, it lets me do that same kind of thing where I can sort of doodle around to sort of remind me what I was thinking about.
I can't do that. If I'm writing, I'm not hearing and listening to what they're saying. So like when we have client calls or potential client calls, I either make one of my members of my team take notes, or I'll use something like Otter, which will just record and transcribe the conversation so I can look at it later. But I can't write and listen at the same time.
I can't think of a time. I don't take a whole lot of notes because I'm listening and I'm trying to find the insight into what they're saying. That's what I live to do, figure stuff out. And so I'm processing it. I can't think of a time where I'm taking a whole lot of notes. So,
but mine, unlike you, Jay, if I don't write down that idea first thing in the morning, it's gone instantly. Like I have a notepad in my bathroom for when I get out of the shower to write stuff down. And it would be better if I had it in the shower.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And that's where the big ideas happen. So if I'm not writing notes like verbatim at all, I'm writing down action items like this is the thing, this is the next step, this is who has to do what, who I've got to call to make sure that this other thing happened. It's just a series of to-dos essentially that are coming out of a meeting, which is what you're doing, Jay, but I can't remember anything. If I don't write down like go downstairs and get my other shoes, I'll be like, what am I supposed to be doing? Like I have no idea.
So let me ask you this, Karen. Do you think if I said, what percentage of you is entrepreneur and what percentage of you is manager, do you have a feel for that? Do you think you're 50-50?
Well, I don't, the word manager to me means it's totally, that's like
running stuff,
telling people what to do.
No,
for me,
no,
managing is more the operations side. I'm an ops person for sure.
Okay.
My sort of initial role in the company was ops, so making sure that everything's organized. We have the right system for everything. We have process, we have systems. I'm super into process and systems.
I'm super into that. I just can't do it. One of my first hires is now our operations manager. And I think that I drive her nuts on many levels because she's always trying to find process and systems. I'm a big fan of not having to reinvent the wheel. Like, if you do it once and you have to do it again, you shouldn't be starting from scratch. But I think I'm more optimistic in my ability to make that happen than my bandwidth allows.
Okay, this just illustrates that people are very different and manage to get the job done, but they come at it from very different mindsets. I'm 80% an entrepreneur and 20% manager. Maybe call it operations. That's fine because I just get bored with it. So
why do you have to be one or the other? Like, in order to be a good entrepreneur, you have to have some operations.
There's no question, but I'm just saying that some people are like, quote unquote, running their business all day long. They're on the phone, they're dealing with customers, and there's other people that have set up the thing and have very little to do with day-to-day operations. So there is a difference in entrepreneurs as to the mentality.
Or you have somebody on your team that's really good at that day-to-day. And it sounds like, Jay, that you've outsourced a lot of that day-to-day in a very effective manner.
And it took me many, many years. Trust me, many, many years, like 25 years. I mean, it wasn't like I did it overnight.
Well, yeah, and you have to trust those people are going to accomplish the things that you want. Like, yeah, I can imagine it taking a while to do that.
So I have an entire company that I've outsourced what I used to do. It's same as you, Jay. But my job, though, and if I didn't show up to work, everything would go just fine. And people would probably be pretty happy because I wouldn't be driving them nuts.
You tried that a couple years ago.
Yeah, it was great. They were really excited because we're growing and we're evolving and we're changing constantly. I'm constantly looking for what's next. How can we be better? How do we need to, grow and shape and then getting it going, just like I am the entrepreneur in that sense of I'm sort of making stuff up all day long. If it sticks, then I go and create the team around who's going to execute and implement that thing, and then I'm out of there.
Well, there's a difference between our mentality. I just want to grow it. I'm not pushing it that hard anymore. You're still in the go stage of growing it, which more power to you. And you're also younger than I am. So that makes sense. I'm at the stage of just like, hey, if I can grow it, 6-7% a year, hey, I'm good. I don't really have any desire to push it to grow any faster than that because I know that it's going to take a lot more energy and money, and I don't really care.
So I'm totally opposite from both of you. I think I'm in the baby phase compared to both of you, where I'm still, well, our company and our parent company can live by the rule that we all do windows, we all do floors. Overall, my job is kind of high level, but like I have no problem rolling up my sleeves and doing what needs to be done. We have a client we love, and they did a wine and donut tasting menu with a local winery. And nobody on my team can do these deliveries. The client is a beloved legacy client of ours that doesn't have budget to like pay messenger services. So I'm literally driving a case of wine and a box of donuts to 2 locations in San Francisco today and dropping them off. And I don't mind doing it because I have calls during that time that I could just do it in the car. But I'm 20% in the weeds still, for sure.
From your partners there, what is your directive? Are you supposed to grow that company as fast as you can or not? Or they want you to grow it some? I mean, is there a clear-cut mission as to, do they want you to double the company in the next 3 years?
No, there's no pressure like that. But I put pressure on myself.
But you don't have a mandate of a certain amount of growth that you have to perform?
No.
Oh, that's crazy.
Or if not half, how about want? Would they like to see, if you grew at 10% next year, would they be happy with that?
Yeah. I mean, they would be happy with that, but they would, I keep them in the loop of everything, and they know what they bought when they bought it. And we're growing in a slow and thoughtful way, but I put enough pressure on myself. I had somebody ask me, they're like, well, what's your 5-year plan? Like, where do you see yourself? And I have a lot of trouble. I have a lot of trouble with that question. I can't do that question because I don't know.
I got no problem with a 3-year plan because it's tangible. You can do it. 5 years is like, who knows what's going to happen in 5 years. 3 years is crazy.
Like, how about 6 months? Maybe a year.
Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, which happens to be a sponsor that can help with people who need help getting organized. I'm here with Rob Levin, co-founder of Work Better Now, which provides top remote talent from Latin America and the Caribbean. Rob, I gather you found that businesses are using your remote workers in ways you weren't expecting. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's a great point, Lauren. Initially, WBN was providing personal and executive assistance for business owners who understand that their time is better spent on impactful items like increasing revenue, improving the customer experience, and improving company culture. They were drowning in admin, and we initially were focused on saving them time. We're still doing a lot of that, but then we saw that some of our clients were hiring 4, 5, 6 people from Work Better Now.
Wow. What are they having them do?
They're putting them in a very wide range of roles, things like project management, bookkeeping, marketing, and customer service, stuff like that. And we're actually helping them build out their departments with our talent. Now we're recruiting and attracting top talent for those roles as well.
What does using WBN cost?
For $1,900 a month, you get a dedicated full-time Work Better Now assistant. You can have a matched assistant who is perfect for your needs within 2 weeks, and there are no contracts. And if you mention 21 Hats when you are having your free consult, you get $150 off your first 3 months. And that is for each assistant that you hire.
Where can we learn more?
WorkBetterNow.com.
Thanks, Rob. And we're back. Sarah, did you have numbers that you wanted to hit this year, and are you hitting them?
Yes, I had numbers I wanted to hit, and no, I am not hitting them. I've told this to a number of people. This was a learning year for me as a business owner. I invested in hiring some senior people that didn't deliver. I also realized that I need to have more lengthier contracts just for that consistency. I mean, there's a lot of...
Sarah, were those senior people that you were expecting to bring in new business?
No, not so much that, but like, let me take my hands off the wheels so I could focus on that.
Right.
I think I was impacted by what's referred to now as a slow quitting situation. we played out severance and let the person go in an amiable way, but it set me back. Like, so if you look at I'm literally this year, because of, I made a mistake, or two. My growth is level this year.
The person that you hire, because I've been through this, when you say senior person, give us a handle. Are they like 20 years older than you? How senior are they? Are they in their 50s? They've been doing this for 30 years?
No. PR is a young person's game. So this is somebody who's in their early 30s.
Wow.
They had a lot of great credentials, but it just wasn't a match, and they didn't deliver. And I gave probably too many opportunities to, okay, well, let's see if we can fix this. Because I believe in people, and I'm always glass half full about things. And I should have just went with my gut early on and said, no, this is not going to work.
Yeah, and if it makes you feel better, you and everyone else I've ever talked to in business would say I've never met anybody who wouldn't say the exact same thing you just said. So
I learned my lesson. You got to listen to your gut, and I listened to somebody else, not to somebody else, but I kind of listened to the cohesive feedback.
What was your gut telling you that you didn't listen to?
Even when I was interviewing this person, I was like, I don't know. I just don't know if this is going to be the right person. But the other members of the team that interviewed this person they were like, this person's great. Definitely, we love this person. This is going to be a great fit. And so I second guessed myself and I said, you know what, let's do this. And I kicked myself for that, but I can't kick myself too long.
So was there something on the interview that you look back in hindsight? I always do an autopsy, and frequently I find out, yeah, I should have known better. They did say that and I blew it off and I should have paid more attention. Was there something they said on the interview that you think to yourself, yeah, I should have heard that better?
No, it was just a lack of linear thinking. So we just did media training for a large organization yesterday. And you sit down and you media train these people. You teach them to think and put together sound bites that have a start, middle, and end, right? And if a person can do that, that is like golden. That's great for media. That's great for sound bites. That's great for press. That's great for everybody. And it means that they have, to me, it says they know what they want to say and they're going to say it. And so if I'm talking to somebody and they start here and then they deviate and go off there and then they go here, I know, oh my God, they're not going to be good for client relations. I'm looking for people, Jay, that aren't me, because I'm not necessarily a linear thinker with everything I do. And so I need people that are going to be like Karen or yourself and have those lists and be able to go, I'm going to prioritize this, and this, and check these down. And my gut was like, I don't know that this person can do it, but they have all this great kind of interesting experience and a fascinating background. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, that's part of the learning curve of figuring out how to hire, because I certainly have hired plenty of the wrong people, but I did learn from, okay, in the future, I call what you just said being deliberate. You figure out, what do I want to get from this? And what do I need to say to do that, versus just wandering. And did this person come from a bigger firm?
Yeah, from not a bigger firm, but a firm. Yeah. I didn't hit my targeted goals that I had set myself for the beginning of the year. But we got some really great new clients that I'm super excited about. And we honed our skills in terms of making the most of what we have, right? I have this wonderful team of people that I've hired who, understand that, like, yeah, this year we're going to chalk it up as kind of like, all right, we're going to learn things along the way. And then 2023 is going to be that growth year that we were thinking about.
Karen, are you going to hit your numbers this year?
Some of them. We have lots of targets. In terms of revenue growth, 20% is our sort of standard target. At the beginning of the year, after the first quarter, we were up more like 35% growth. And so we adjusted a lot of our targets, thinking that was going to keep up at least some sort of higher pace. But then it didn't. Q2 was not good, and Q3 sort of half not good. And so anyway, but we're still going to meet the 20%, which is important for our parent company.
That's tremendous growth. 20% is tremendous growth. It is.
Yeah, it is. But when it seemed like we were going to do 35, it's kind of a drag. There's a lot of targets, right? So we're looking at, there's revenue, we have sales targets, and the problem is it all starts with the sales, right? And so the sales dropped off. And
is that just related to the economy as a whole, or is there something else going on?
it's possible, or the worry of the economy, yeah. And then we're seeing right now that we've had some big clients just pausing on opening POs and just sort of pausing to check in at the end of Q3 of what's happening. And then we think they're going to go gangbusters in Q4 for us, which is this one coming up.
Are any of these VC funded?
No, these are big tech companies.
Yeah, we've gotten a couple like reductions from VC funded companies because the VC money has dried up.
Yeah. So for us, there's all kinds of targets that we have to watch. So I have to watch the sales number, which, leads into the revenue number, which leads into our EBITDA, our net profit, and our gross margin, are numbers that we watch very carefully. And then also percentage of just different kinds of work that we're doing. I have to watch that really carefully. So it's sort of like a constant, every day, always looking at these numbers.
This is the time of year looking forward that I always say optimism is the gift for the entrepreneur and also the occupational hazard.
Sure.
It's both. And I'm optimistic, but then sometimes I'm too optimistic, and the economy's kind of weird.
Are you hitting your numbers this year, Jay?
No, part of it is all relative to the year before. The year before, everybody was out there spending money fixing up their house. So it's all relative. But no, I'm not hitting the numbers. I'm adjusting next year's numbers. And, I've been through this 20 times. It's just like, I don't want to be overly optimistic, that's for sure. So I'm bringing the numbers down, looking at the expenses to match. And you think about, the hiring thing. In my case, my biggest expense by far is labor. So I just have to make sure I try to match the right amount of people. But I will tell you, as a customer, oh my God, the companies I'm dealing with are so messed up. And I'm seeing lots of companies that are understaffed and they think it's okay. And I don't think it's okay. They're losing business. And I don't want to be one of those companies. So I'm still I'm still maintaining our customer service levels, because in the long run, you can do a lot of damage to yourself by cutting back too much.
Jay, how do you think about it when you see your numbers off? How much do you attribute that to the economy, and how much do you think you need to adjust your marketing?
My marketing is next to nothing in that it's, I've got a website and I've got my locations, but I spend very little in advertising. So I definitely am not blaming any of it on marketing.
You have spent a good bit of money on advertising in the past.
Over the years, but I'm not anymore, because the stuff I used to do just simply doesn't work anymore. It used to be you could go on the radio and expect a decent return. That's over.
So you're not doing direct mail or ads or print or anything?
I am going to do another direct mail, but it's still not a substantial.
But you haven't been.
No, but that never was a major driver of the business to begin with. The major driver to my business always was and will continue to be repeat business. I'm selling a lot of discretionary income stuff. Nobody needs to frame a picture today. They can wait till next month or the month after. And frankly, when you talk to people, frequently they say, "Oh, I've got something I've been meaning to frame." And they've been meaning to frame it for 5 years. So
I have a big stack. I think you should start doing pickup service where you can come to my house and do
I'm
it,
get in
and
the
then
car
take
as soon
it away.
as we're done and drive over there and get your stuff, because we need to get
Seriously,
that.
that would really help me out. That's my barriers. I got to get it in the car. I got to take it down there. I got to spend the time. If you came here, it'd be amazing.
The problem is that the stock market's way off, and people are probably concerned about, I should stop. They're probably being concerned about spending some money. It doesn't take a lot to throw things off.
Well, the housing market is collapsing.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't help.
I have a stack of things that need a frame because it's in one of my notebooks on my to-do list.
All right, I'm going to dispatch someone to go to both of your houses. So the question is there some blocking and tackling that you could be doing, Sarah, to go get some more business? Like, here's my question for you. How come I've been in business for 43 years and I can't ever remember reading a story about a PR firm, a small PR firm that was looking to do? How come I've never seen an article that I can ever remember?
Well, we're fun, but new business is like hitting us hard, fast and furious right now. It's like all of a sudden people opened up their wallets. I literally signed 3 contracts in the last week. So I don't want to hire anybody full time until next year. So my goal is to go into next year with a beautifully healthy P&L. Like for PR agencies, if your monthly profitability is, minimum 20%, like ideally 40%, you're in the gold standard, right? So I don't necessarily want to add additional headcount before the new year because I want to go into the new year with we have this wonderful profitability. We have clients that have signed on for, 6 to 9 months. Like we're in a really good place because last year we had a number of contracts that expired at the end of the year. So I went into January with, I'm in the red right now because those contracts ended and January is like the death for new business because people haven't figured out their marketing budgets for the year. January is just like a wasteland.
Sarah, for your hiring, why do you need to hire at all if everything's going well?
We have too much work. Like, as I said, my time is in dealing with new business is I literally will easily be up until 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night every day, just catching up on things because I'm trying to juggle new business, but also we need to hire an additional person for our consumer team.
So Sarah, isn't it more important to hire that person and get the work done than to make sure your P&L looks the way you want it to look?
Yeah, but I don't want to. Yes, I hear what you're saying, but I also hiring somebody and then having them not work for half a month in December is like, why?
Because then you hit the ground running in January.
That's true.
And you can service clients in November. If they just signed on, are they going to wait until January? You're going to hire someone, bring them on, and then February they start to get the work done?
And two, if you're paying every 2 weeks, then that's not that much money in a salary.
We have found a couple contractors, one of which has been a contractor with us forever. And she won't let me hire her because she's, an independent contractor. So we're able to fully service all of our current clients. I don't want to make that commitment until I know in the new year that, we're in a really good place. I have one client, a big client, whose contract ends February 9th. And so if they go, then that just going to cause me stress in the new year. And so I'm kind of just trying to prepare myself in the best way for that. And using contractors is fine because it's really hard to find people to hire.
It just so happens we're almost out of time, and I have a listener question that addresses exactly that point. Let me read this to you. This question comes from Niall Livingston, who owns a design business in Philadelphia called Creative Repute. Her question is this. Many of the people I work with are contractors because the work we take on is so inconsistent. Plus, contractors allow us to maintain a deep bench of specialists to call on. However, I will be taking steps to convert longtime contractors that consistently work with us each week into employees soon. I've learned that offering flat rates for each project is fair unless it's a minimal task. Otherwise, I risk having contractors milk the clock. Plus, flat rates help us budget better. Salary will be a new endeavor for me. I'm excited to learn some lessons about managing that. I don't want to pay for people to sit around for long periods, but I need to retain talent. That's my question. Thoughts, anybody?
It's like a 4-part question.
No, that's a mouthful.
Yes, it is. Which part would you like to address, Karen?
Well, I think the first 2 points are true, which is you get specialists and you just pay for them when you need them. There are laws now that make it so you can't just use contractors over and over and over and have your whole business using contractors and avoid any kind of taxes. It's to get at paying employment taxes. So like in California and Washington, you can only use contractors on a temporary and very specialized basis, and you have to prove that. They're not instead of having them as a full-time employee. So you have to be really careful about that. So that's the difference between a 1099 and a W-2. But yeah, managing bench time and utilization. Utilization is the number one thing that I look at every day. It's the most important thing. It is the single most important thing that impacts our profitability. What is utilization? Is there an equation that you're referring to? Yeah, people working on projects. So people billing. So we're consultants. So we bill our employees' time to the clients essentially. And we mostly do flat fee projects as well, because they're nice to manage.
So do you keep track of what percentage of your people are billing on a daily basis? Is that?
Oh yeah, but I know every hour.
What do you use to track their hours? Curious.
Time tracking system. We've used a bunch of different ones over the years. They're just basic time tracking, but everyone has to enter their time.
The way a law firm has lawyers keep track of their time.
It's exactly the same. Yeah. So they have to show what project they're billing to, and they have to record their time. And it may just be 40 hours billing to this one project, and it's super simple. It doesn't have to be complicated, but we don't get to track revenue until those hours have been entered into our time tracking system. So until their hours are entered, it's considered a sale. So like, let's say we have a $100,000 project. That's $100,000 in sales number. And it doesn't convert to revenue until those people have entered those hours into the time tracking system, because the revenue is work done. And we are measured mostly on revenue. That's the most important number for us. Because you can have all these big sales and we can't complete the work because we don't have people or something went wrong. Then it's no good until we've actually done the work. So it's the number one thing that we have, had to manage and deal with and create all kinds of systems and checks and balances around utilization, so that we know that we don't have people sitting on the bench, is what we call it, which is the single most expensive thing for us. And we have a whole team that manages putting people on projects to make sure that we don't have anybody who's not being utilized.
Do you have like different levels of like, this person has to be 80% billable, this person has to be?
Yeah, we do. Higher up in management, so more senior managers have less billable time.
Can you clarify, those rules for 1099 have been around, it's an IRS thing. Is there extra stuff in California more than that?
Yeah, California and Washington have new rules, and maybe Oregon as well. We had a bunch of people that we used as contract, and it came around after the Uber and Lyft,
right,
having all these, temporary gig workers and not paying any benefits. Meanwhile, they were working full time for those companies. And so that's when they really cracked down. And so we had to convert a big, huge portion of our 1099 people into part-time W-2, so that we were paying employment taxes, they get benefits, that kind of thing.
I think one of the critical questions are if you are their only client, that's a problem. I think that's one of the red flags.
Yep, for sure. And they have to be set up with their own business. They have to have a business license, all that kind of stuff.
Karen, would you have advice for Sarah or for the listener who raised this question about how a smaller business can try to make sure that they're not paying people to sit around?
Yeah, you just have to watch it really carefully. You have to be careful about who you hire. Like, we've always hired behind the curve, right? So we've got work coming. So you have to be really watching, when's the work going to land? What kind of work is it? Who do I need to do that work? And then we have a pool of contractors that we use to ebb and flow for this kind of stuff. And we have to keep track of when they're available, right? Because the problem with contractors is they have their own life and they're off doing something else. And when you need them, they're not available. So we have a person who manages the contractor pool. They know who's available when, what their skill set is, what kind of work we can use them for. But then with our employees, how we manage growth is if we have too much work for the people, we use contractors until we know that that's the new normal. And as soon as we can see that, okay, we've been using our percentage of contractors, like 20% is a good number for us. If it's higher than that consistently over several months, then we start looking at, okay, we have a new normal. We need to hire now. So we'll some of the contractors may want to convert, others we just have to hire new people to fill that bandwidth. And so it's a constant eye on the ball. It never ends. It's always been like this, for 22 years, nothing has changed in this area.
I only have one contractor at the moment, and it's worked out very well. She does marketing for me. But generally speaking, that question from the listener, she doesn't want, people doing nothing. If you have a lot of employees, there are going to be times where there's just not a lot. There are ebbs and flows. And trust me, when I walk through my framing showroom and there's 3 people sitting there buying shoes on Zappos, it doesn't feel great, but I recognize, all right, I figured out what the cost of sales are. It fits into it. People, there are ebbs and flows of business. And if you have employees, which you have to have at some point, there are going to be some times where they're not that busy. It goes with the territory. I think to Karen's point, if you're using a lot of contractors, at some point, I would think it'd be more cost effective to have them as employees, because I would think you get more bang for the dollar.
Actually, for us, Jay, it's more profitable to use contractors, but then you have the downside, which is you can't keep them, and then your IP goes
Right.
out the door, right? So we do a lot of work training. We want our knowledge to stay in-house, and with contractors, it comes and goes. So
Right. I have a hard time imagining a company that's built on all contractors. I guess they probably exist, but
Sarah, is this debate between contractors and employees relevant to you? Is that something you've wrestled with?
Yeah, no, it's an ongoing. I love contractors. I think they're fantastic. I think that there are some people that are, a lot of people actually, post-COVID have found really good, stable sources of revenue being a contractor, and they don't want to work for a company. So some of those contractors are like the best members of your team. They don't want to be hired by you.
That's a great point. All right. My thanks to Karen Clark-Cole, Jay Goltz, and Sarah Segal, and to our sponsor, Work Better Now. We'll see you all next week. Wait. Don't leave yet. If you have a question or a comment that you'd like the 21 Hats owners to address, send it to me by replying to your morning report or by email at lauren@21hats.com. That's LOREN @21hats.com. Do it now before you forget. And don't be afraid to tell Jay what you really think. He can take it. And if you got something out of this conversation, help us reach more business owners. Tell a friend. Subscribe and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to the Morning Report at 21hats.com. This episode was produced by Jess Thuberon, founder of Blank Word Productions. Okay, now you can leave. Thanks for listening, everyone.